Thank you, and welcome. The Wareham Conservation Commission will hold a meeting under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Town of Wareham Wetlands Protection Bylaws, Division 6, and any other applicable laws on Wednesday, March 1st, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. All matters listed may involve a discussion and possible vote. Our location is at Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, room 320. All hearings of the Wareham Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Town of Wareham Wetlands Protection Bylaws, Division 6. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. We would start with the roll call. Carol, can you start us off?
Carol Melanson.
Denise Schultz.
Joshua Faraday.
Michael Mercier.
Kwame Barty.
Autumn Wood.
First announcement would be that 10, 14, and 16 River Terrace has continued till 3:15, and 17 Murphy Street is continuing to 3:15. So if there's anybody here for either of those, we will not be hearing them this evening. Kwame, can you read our first advertisement for 131 Atwood Avenue?
Yes, this is a request of determination of applicability for Stephen C. Halbert, P.O. Box 3238, Pocasset, Mass. 02559, to remove trees endangering barn and around trailer located on Assessors Map 131, Lot 10A0, Cranberry Highway, off Wareham, Mass.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there someone here to represent this project?
I believe that's you, sir. You want to talk about Atwood?
Oh, Atwood, I'm sorry. I'm a little hard of hearing, okay?
Okay.
This,
Please stay.
brings back a lot of memories. It was the old high school back in the 40s and 50s.
This building?
This is my English class.
Oh, okay. Please state your name for representing the project.
Yeah, my name is Frank Westgate. I did the survey and the original plan work for this project. Now, Steve Holbert should be here. I don't know what happened to him, but he's the one that made the sketches on that plan showing the trees that are going to be removed. And it looks to be fairly accurate. He wasn't prepared with an instrument survey for sure, but it's pretty approximate, so I can answer any questions, I think.
Do you have any comments?
Yeah, so he did mark the trees out in the field, and I know myself and a few commission members were able to get out there and look at them. I would agree that most of the trees are either endangering a structure or some type of property. Where I find it harder to believe is in the dock area, planned left. There are some that appear to be endangering the trailer, and then there are some that are closer to the water that may be dying, but most of them look in pretty good health, so I'm not sure on why they would want to be removed. My suggestion would be to the commission to issue a -2 determination, or -3 determination with the condition that I meet with Steve and we actually talk about the trees that are being removed. Because I don't believe that all of them should be removed.
I understand, sure. I agree.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody on the board have any questions? Start with Carol.
I have no questions.
Mike?
No questions?
Kwame?
No questions, thank you.
Autumn?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, may I have then anybody from the audience who wishes to speak to this project? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the hearing?
Move
If
to
that's what
close
you
the
wish to
hearing?
do?
Second.
I have a motion to close and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Opposed? Abstained? The vote is 4-0-0 to close the hearing.
move that we accept this project. Is it a project?
RDA.
Yeah, it's an RDA. With a -3 determination, with the stipulation that Mr. Faraday meets with Mr. Hurlbert and discusses the trees, and they agree upon which trees are to be removed.
I'm so sorry that I don't hear well. Could you repeat that, please?
Okay, it's
Summation.
a summation, -3 determination with the condition that Mr. Hurlbert meet with Mr. Faraday to discuss which trees he wants to remove and that they agree upon that prior to any work being done.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstained. The vote is 400.
Thank you very much.
You remember to meet with Mr. Faraday before you start any work. Meet with Mr. Faraday before you start any work.
Yeah, Steve's been very good about talking to me, so I don't see that as a problem.
Okay, Kwame, can you read to 186 Onset Avenue?
Yes, this is a request for notice of intent for Derek Sullivan, Megan Kearns of Weston and Sampson Engineering, 55 Walker's Brook Drive, Suite 100, Reading, Mass. 01867, to redevelop and upgrade the existing Bayview Park located along South Boulevard and Onset Avenue, located on the Assessors Map 1, lots 1052/B and 1048, 186 Onset Avenue, Wareham, Mass.
The representative. Do we have the green cards for this?
They were sent to me electronically.
So we have them.
Do you have the physical ones if you need them?
Hi,
More
I'm Dave
paper to
Bernard
store.
from Municipal Maintenance. I'm representing the town tonight for this project. I mean, I think it's a great thing for the town. We're trying to do some ADA sidewalks here and everything, and I'll let these two introduce themselves, and they're going to go through the project for us.
Thanks so much for hearing from us tonight. My name is Cassie Bethany. I'm a landscape architect and project manager leading this project.
And I'm Megan Kearns. I'm a wetland scientist with Weston and Sampson, helping out in the delineation and the permitting for this project.
I'm sorry, did you say Kathy Kearns?
Megan, sorry.
Megan Kearns?
Cassie is my name.
Yes.
So I'll just tell you to advance. So the project is located in Onset at the corner of South Boulevard and Onset Avenue, and it fronts Onset Bay high up on the bluffs above the beach. Next slide. The project is focused on providing universal accessibility throughout the park. It's currently a park. It will continue to be a park. So essentially the moves are really to make this place accessible. It's currently not. We also are looking to strengthen connections to the bandshell that currently exist on the park, to the nearby open spaces, and to downtown Onset Village. We also have done a extensive tree assessment. We'll be looking to prune and manage those existing trees, keep them, and really add to the stock that's there. And then we will be enhancing the park's visibility, the entrances, and view sheds throughout the park. Next slide. So you see some views of the existing conditions and some of the lack of compliance that we have currently. There's a connection in the upper left image of a view down, a pathway down to the beach from the top of the park. That's not compliant currently. It's currently a stair set that's fairly unsafe to walk on. You can see the image on the right side is the views that we hope to enhance. The image in the lower left are some pathways that are also very much out of compliance, going up very steep hills. There's significant grade change within this park. You can see the McFadden Center on the left side in that image. And then the lower right image is the condition along Onset Ave, where we're looking to widen that walkway to allow for all of the public use along that sidewalk. We're also looking to make that guardrail safer and just generally improve the condition and safety within the space. Next slide. So generally, the proposed project is to ensure ADA compliance throughout this space, ensure that the connections are strengthened, as mentioned, pruning, I'll just skip down to the new stuff. We'll be adding stormwater management to the park. We'll be including rain gardens of native plantings that will collect stormwater on site and infiltrate it or convey it out. We'll be adding new pedestrian lighting that is in keeping with the lighting that currently exists there. We'll be upgrading the guardrail, as mentioned, and cleaning up the ornamental fencing around some memorial spaces within that park. We'll be relocating benches onto pathways so that they're accessible, and they capture view sheds, and then we'll be restoring the site, so loaming and seeding, amending soil, such things to make sure that the soil is healthy and can support passive recreation use on that park. Next slide. So we just included the plan sheets from the permit set that you were provided. I'm not anticipating that we go through these in any detail unless there are specific questions within the discussion period. But here is the existing condition plan. The left side is South Boulevard. The top is Onset Ave, just to orient folks, and the bottom of the sheet is Onset Beach. And all of the circles within that space are all the trees. There's quite a few, and so the work that we'll be doing, we'll be working very carefully, a lot of hand digging to make sure that those trees are protected and survive through the construction process. We also are marking on this plan the coastal bank and the lands subject to the top of bank is marked in dashed lines. We also have the 50-foot no activity zone, and the 100-foot buffer zone marked, and that work will sit within that area as well. Next slide. In terms of site preparation and demolition, we have marked on the plans erosion controls for straw wattles and siltation fence to protect construction activities from moving into any of the water bodies. We also have tree protections in place. There's 2 different types based on where work is occurring. Next slide. This is a materials plan which shows the proposed condition. It's a series of walkways, ramps, and stairs that will improve and reorient circulation through the space. And we are also adding a stair going down to Onset Beach that we'll discuss in more detail in a little bit. We're essentially replacing in kind within this current condition, but it does cause quite a bit of grading to be done in that area. Next slide. On grading and drainage, it's important to note kind of at this scale to understand that at the highest point, we're at 29.3 feet. Our lowest elevation is 7.14. That's about 21 feet of grade change that we're dealing with. And so you can imagine the amount of accessibility challenges that we have in terms of ramp systems and stairs needed to traverse that space. Next slide. From a planting perspective, all the planting selections that we're calling for currently are native. We're adding new native trees, adding shrub and understory plantings within either rain garden spaces, there are 3, or slope stabilization between the park and the McFadden Center for areas that are disturbed. Next slide. And then we included a few of our pertinent detail sheets that we thought Concom might be interested in, including our details on erosion protection. Next slide. We have drainage details that are included for the rain garden system. Next slide. And then some utility connections. We're adding a hose bib for the rain garden plantings, and that's really it in terms of an electrical for lighting as well. Next slide. And this is where Megan will come in on the impacts.
Yep, so as Cassie mentioned, there are a few resource areas out on site. This table was just copied from the notice of intent application, but I'll just run through some of the impact numbers again. For Coastal Bank, we're proposing 379 linear feet of impact, some of that permanent, some temporary. As there'll be some pavement, we're calling that more permanent impact. Temporary is returning the existing park back to the existing park in the lawn area. There's about 17,416 square feet of work in land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is the flood zone out here, and about 13,631 cubic feet of fill on site. As Cassie mentioned, we're dealing with some significant grade changes. About 53,000 square feet of work will take place in the 100-foot buffer zone, and about 38,821 square feet in the Wareham Wetland Bylaw no activity, 50-foot no activity zone. And these bottom photos are just representative of these wetland resource areas out on site. This is mostly coastal bank and land subject to coastal storm flowage in the site. It's existing grass and walkways right now. Next slide, please. So this figure is just an aerial showing these different resource areas on site. I'll start, I guess, at the beach for the approximate land under ocean and work my way towards the park. So we've got land under ocean, which then goes to the approximate coastal beach. From coastal beach, we have coastal dune, which is in between the yellow line and the orange line shown on this plan. We did make a designation between vegetated coastal dune and coastal dune out here, just because there is an area that has the very typical dune vegetation with ammophila, and then there's mostly just sand in the other area, but it is coastal dune, so we just made that designation. There's no work happening in coastal dune out here, but it is out nearby the site. And then the pink line is the coastal bank line. This mostly follows the 100-year floodplain, which is why it has some crazy bump outs within the park. And that's at elevation, I believe, 19 and 22. There are two elevations on the park. And you'll see where it's mostly by the McFadden Center where it changes from 19 to 22. And the coastal bank line was determined using CZM's guidelines for the slope. Next slide, please. Now I'll turn it back to Cassie.
So we are considering an option for the stair that we're replacing down to Onset Beach on the South Boulevard side. We are aware that the just pure replacement of the stair actually causes significant grade disturbance of the slope. And so we are considering an option where we elevate a stair. And so the disturbance would become then the footings that would support that stair going down into the slope. We also are considering an ADA compliant ramp along that edge that would also be elevated. And so this entire system would be elevated above the slope, thereby not or impacting that slope in a less significant way than it would as currently designed. And there is interest in the town to provide ADA accessibility on this side of the park from South Boulevard down to Onset Beach. And so we wanted to offer this option to Concom to see if there was it may be allowable in a future submittal or amendment to this application for us to incorporate into the park or into the plans. And the next slide.
So we looked into just approximating what wetland resource area impacts would take place with this ADA accessible ramp, understanding that it hasn't been designed fully, so this is very approximate numbers, but just to get a ballpark, it would be approximately 1,180 square feet inland subject to coastal storm flowage and 1,350 cubic feet because the ramp itself would be thick and you would have the footings down into the slope. and it would be about 236 linear feet of work on coastal bank. And there are some permitting challenges with this, because the ramp would need to be designed so that it would not be considered a coastal engineering structure. So that if it is considered that, it'd be more challenging to permit this, this ramp. And next slide, please.
I think that concludes our discussion, and we welcome any of your comments and questions.
Josh?
Sure. This might be, the amount of trees that are being removed, I assume, and it looks this way, but are there more trees being added than being removed?
Yes.
That's what it looks like, okay.
I think the only trees that will be removed are, there may be one that is in, or two that are in poor health.
Okay.
And then there are one or two that are just maintenance nightmares for the town,
Sure.
that are like large shrubs, essentially.
Yeah, they're not, not the large trees, not
Yeah.
touching.
Yeah, I know some of the trees that were discussed were along South Boulevard, so, and some of them are in very poor health. I'd agree with that. Speaking of the ADA accessible ramp, I know in one of the plan details, you plan to add parking for ADA accessibility on South Boulevard. How many spots is that?
Currently proposed are 2 spots. These would be parallel spaces at the point where the roadway bends. So they would just be painted spaces. There would be no change to the roadway.
Okay. If you get approved for, let's say, a staircase tonight, does the design of the staircase allow for the addition of the ramp without any modifications to the staircase? Or would that just be a planning nightmare to?
So you mean if the stair is designed in the current permitting set is one that is set into the slope? We're
Okay.
asking the commission to consider an option where we elevate that stair and add an accessible ramp, if that would be looked upon favorably for, if it's less disturbance and such things, then we would then broach that with the state and such and see if it's permittable. But at the moment, we would not be planning to add a ramp set within the slope, if that's answering your question.
Yeah, that answers my question enough.
Yeah, I think the disturbance of that is just, it's too significant. So we feel that the next viable option would be to elevate and set that ramp up above the slope.
I would agree. So I think the project in a whole was a good thing. I agree with that. I believe that the proposed project would be the best way to go, and potentially have an amended order of conditions moving forward, or possibly a new notice of intent if the ramp is a way that we wish to, move forward in the future.
Okay.
That would be my opinion. We can leave that to the commission.
Okay. Kwame, do you have any comments?
No, I agree with Josh's assessment. I think this is an excellent project for the town, especially to rehab that area. So who's responsible for the maintenance after these rain gardens and everything in place? Is that the town or the wonderful
Yeah, that would be
garden
us,
club?
yep.
No?
No, oh, well, the garden club, they do a real lot.
Sandy would
And-
actually
and,
recommend.
I mean, one of the slides over there too, it showed like, because some of the ones didn't really take them on the side of the McFadden Center. See, they got plantings also. Even that, they decided that we would work in to take care of that at the same time, some of them. The garden club actually said they would help out and plant.
Sandy would be very happy about that.
I know a few other people too who would certainly be very happy to work on that as well.
Yeah, they do a wonderful job for
Oh, do they ever?
Awesome.
I could attest to that.
So you said the town of Wareham is responsible for the
Correct, would
the
be
initial
responsible
cleans.
for it,
Right, I understand. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, Onset is a important economic part of the town. A lot of people visit it, especially during the summer. So I'm just curious, is there any, what would be the time of year the replanting and all the work would begin in the park?
That would, we're looking at after Labor Day, for the most part, doing a lot of this stuff, so that as far as trying to work with the busy summer months, that we won't have to dig it all up and stuff. Whatever we can do, some things we might be able to do during the season, what little things, but for the majority of the work will be after Labor Day.
Sure. And also, is there any area where the construction equipment or any, or basically, if there was construction equipment or whatever, where would that be stored, basically?
Well, so we have an area designated within the park site for stockpiling of materials that are collected through construction activities. We have provisions in our plan set for where vehicles can and cannot park. I think we need to clarify that a bit more with the town. I don't think we would want traffic to be built up by construction vehicles parking on the adjacent roads, but most of the construction activities are contained within the park site itself.
All right, that's all. Thank you.
Carol?
I have no questions.
Autumn?
I have one question about the planting that you're doing. So I know you guys are going to be putting in some trees, some shrubs. Are you going to be putting down grass? Will you be encouraging people to spend time on the grass? I know now people like to do picnics, kids run around. So is that still going to be in the plan for this new park?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the circle part of it and stuff, I mean, it's a lot more friendly than it is now. It's gonna, the way the whole circle is, that you'll be able to sit on these benches on the outside and actually watch the children play in that circle instead of the way it's configured now. I mean, it's a really nice setup. They did a great job on the design.
Yeah, people really move through the space and then spend time along the edge, like to see views. But we envision that this circular pathway system set on the top of the park it's centered on the gazebo. It makes the gazebo more usable. It creates a seating area for an audience to sit and enjoy a band, and that's all lawn inside there. So any areas that aren't shown as shrub planting or seed, rain garden seed planting are all lawn.
Perfect. And will the monuments be staying where they currently are? Do you have to move anything?
We have a few that are staying in their current spots, but some do have to move because of the reorientation of pathways. But they're all staying within the park. They're just shifting slight locations.
And a lot of them are like small plaque type things and stuff that really, most people don't even notice they're there, the ones that are being moved.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
If we could move forward and consider just working with the staircase as you have it proposed, and then deal with the ramp part of the whole thing later through a different
Yeah, so
NOI?
we could potentially, you could go for an amended order of conditions, and, the board could look at it that way. With the significance and the scope of work changing, I would probably recommend a notice of intent, just because of the impacts to the coastal bank and,
Okay.
but-
There's a limited amount of parking on that side road, and you're planning on taking 2 parking spaces to making them handicapped. I think that might be.
There's no parking on that corner already, right? That would be a new additional space.
Not the stretch that we're talking about. I think you're referencing the side that runs along Onset
Upper-
Beach.
yeah, the side up at the top,
on South Boulevard.
South Boulevard?
Yeah.
You're planning on taking 2 parking spaces and making them handicapped up there?
I don't believe there's any parking
no parking.
spaces.
There's no parking there now.
There's no parking there now.
But you're planning on putting 2
spaces,
handicapped
yeah.
in there?
Yes, on that bumped out corner.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak to this project? Seeing none, how do you feel about closing the hearing? And
I move that we close the hearing.
I have a motion to close and a
Second.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Somebody want to take a stab at a motion?
Josh, you want to lay it out for me?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I would say you want to approve the project and issue an order of conditions. I don't think there are any special conditions that
Standard
you
order
guys.
of conditions?
Conditions.
Okay.
Just
Yeah,
the standard?
just the standard, because the proposed staircase now is how it is proposed. It
Okay,
would be on the applicant to come back to us for any amendments to that.
okay. I move that we accept this project with the standard order of conditions.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? You have your proposal.
Awesome, thank you very much.
See Josh before you start any work.
I just have one question, sorry to belabor it. I am curious if we did come back with an amended NOI or a new NOI for the ramp, would the commission be in favor of that? Because I think we're just, the design
It's a
require.
huge cost, so we're trying to, she's just trying to get an opinion of the board's feeling of that ramp, if that switchback ramp, is it like, if everybody totally against it, then now we're investing tax dollars in something that we probably won't pass, so we're trying to get a feel for it tonight, would be good, if you could.
Does anybody have an opinion on that?
How big,
How big a disturbance, I guess?
wide is the ramp?
Right. How big of a disturbance would you be doing to that area?
Me, I think it's a less of a disturbance, because instead of tearing apart all that staircase that's there now you're just putting piers there. You're just doing a little hole, putting a concrete pier for this switchback ramp, elevated ramp to sit on top. But that's my opinion of it, that it would be less intrusive than what we're replacing, because we're changing grades, we're putting gravel in. That's my own personal opinion, but others have different, so.
Do you have any thoughts on that, Josh?
Well, the grade changes are still going to be proposed whether it's a staircase or a ramp, correct?
The slope grades would not be impacted should we do an elevated stair and ramp. The impacts would become then, instead of grading impacts, it would become the footings required to elevate this system. That's why Dave said it exactly right. We don't want to go down the road of designing a whole system and then it's a non-starter with the commission. And then we would have stranded money.
Right, so there's a lot of fill going into that one area where the top of the staircase currently is. Is that fill going to be there regardless of whether it's a staircase or a
There would
handicap?
be
or-
some amount of fill, but it wouldn't be to the extent that you would need, because we still do need to tie in proposed pathways with that elevated system. So you're right, there is, I don't know what that net change is right now, but there is some level of fill that would still be required.
What are your thoughts?
Trying to think of if we decide, or if it's the decision of the town that the ramp is the best thing to do, you could always come to a hearing and petition the board on how they feel about it then. Then you could come to a meeting where you would have Sandy is available as well, because her vote is just as important as everyone else's. So taking a vote tonight still might not give you
I don't think
the
we're looking
answer
for
that
a
you
vote.
want.
I'm not looking for a vote.
No,
I'm just
but-
like-
Well,
I'd
we
like
have
it-
3 members missing tonight,
Oh, I
so
didn't
that's
realize that.
Right,
that's part of the
so
problem.
if
okay.
members here say that they're in favor of it,
Yeah.
even if one of them isn't, you still might get a negative
I see.
Yeah,
regardless of what they say tonight.
okay.
So I think it would be more beneficial to you if you determine that this is the best way to go, or maybe you already have, to come back when we have a full commission and feel get their opinion then.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, I also have a question. Where you would want to locate the ramp is where that staircase is, over by South Boulevard on that side. Is that the only location that you could put in handicapped access?
So there is currently access to the beach from the pier parking side. There's handicap spaces there, and people can get onto the beach. There's a matting that they can get onto the beach for, but this is serving that other side's need. It's,
The other side of the park. And also, if you look at with the McFadden Center, they utilize that area a lot for different functions. They got kayaks and a lot of stuff. So even that access point is, you're limited your access. If you have an extra access on the right side, it would be better for the ADA, I think.
Okay,
Well, they shouldn't be storing kayaks on a handicapped access.
Well, they have a lot of activities. See, they do a lot of things. I mean, it's great for the town, but that's unfortunately the only side that the ADA access that we could utilize
okay,
at this time.
okay.
Okay.
I mean, I understand you can't do it down at Shell Point and then try to roll, say, a wheelchair through the sand all the way over to the boathouse. That can't happen, so I understand that.
They're supposed to be putting mats down on the,
That'd be a long way to go with mats.
I know.
You know, and I personally know how many of those mats cost, so, yes. So, okay, I just wanted to make sure that there was no other,
But they do have
Option
access
that was-
from the pier side.
right, but you can't get from the pier side around to the other side.
you will, with these improvements will
New
make
park you can.
accessibility within the park. Currently, you have to go
Yeah.
a crazy way.
You can't get up that, there's no way to get up that hill.
Right.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, where are we? We're moving into the continued public hearings. Can I have a motion to continue 10, 16, 14, and 16 River Terrace to 3:15? I need a motion.
Motion to continue 10, 14, 16 River Terrace till March, was it, you said 14? 15, I'm sorry, the 15th.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Abstained. It is moved to 3:15. Motion to continue 17 Murphy Street to 3:15.
move to continue to 3:15 on 17 Murphy Street.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Vote is 400. 17-2 Burgess Point Road.
There's a big plan for you.
Please identify yourself.
Good evening, Brian Wallace with JC Engineering.
Thank you.
Do you want to, we just got new plans, so.
Of course.
If you want to speak to that, please.
Sure. So I'll go back to when we last met on this project. The commission had asked us to take care of a few items. The first was, it was noted that there were a lot of boulders on the site, both in the water and along the shoreline. So we had a survey crew go out there and locate the boulders that were in the vicinity of the proposed pier. So that is the only change to the site plan, is that those boulder locations are shown. They're the little gray blobs, if you will. A couple are by the mean low water line, a few are on the shoreline. So we located those, and we did not need to make any changes to the design as a result of where they were located. Other documents that were requested at that meeting was some clarification on the delineation of the eelgrass survey and the report that was done by ECR at the time. So they prepared, we asked them to review the plan and prepare sort of an updated letter on that, sort of clarifying what they had meant by the shoreline distance. So they had stated, 211 feet, 218 feet from the shoreline. And in the updated report dated February 8th, they clarified that the shoreline refers to the edge of water at the time of the survey. And they further said that that was between 10:17 a.m., 11:42 a.m. on July 22nd, which was approximately at low tide. So that was what they meant by shoreline, was the mean low water line at the time of the survey. And on the plan itself, again, I sort of touched on this at the last meeting, but we kind of kept it conservative. We're a little less than 211, 218 feet as shown on the plan. So hopefully that clarifies that comment. And then the last thing that was requested from us was a shellfish study to be done, and we had that also prepared by ECR. The results of that indicated, I'll just move to that. So in the report, they did several little plots. I believe they were 3 feet by 3 feet in the vicinity of the pier itself. And they only found quahogs in all of those plots. And they summarized that equated to about 0.41 quahogs per square foot as the density. And looking at the footprint of the piles itself, that would equate to impacting about 7 to 8 quahogs, which we don't feel is really significant in terms of some other areas in town. So they also noted a few conditions which the commission could consider just to further preserve that, but we felt that the report indicated that impacts would be quite minimal. That essentially summarizes all the updated documents that we provided, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any comments?
I don't. I feel your comments would probably be better served, just because I, started halfway through this project. Well, a majority of it was prior to my arrival.
Carol, do you have any comments?
I have no comments now.
Kwame?
No comments, thank you.
Mike?
Just refresh my memory. What would the pier be made of again?
The materials of it?
Correct, the planks.
Yeah, so the piles itself, we'd call out either timber or fiberglass piles, depending on, material costs at the time of construction. The pier itself, that would either be, decking at 3/4 inch spacing between planks, or through flow decking that provides a little more sunlight. We sort of left that open, again, when construction materials, cost and availability might change what ends up going in. So we wanted to keep that sort of open-ended. And then for the floats itself, sort of the same thing. We call out, just as long as they conform to the federal, state, local regulations. So again, either through flow decking or wood planks. So all non-leaching pressure-treated materials in any case.
Thank you.
Yep. That away.
Autumn, do you have any comments?
No questions, thank you.
I have a few.
Sure.
Okay. So you're telling me that you went back to the eelgrass survey gentleman, and he's now pushing the eelgrass out to where you said that it is?
No.
No?
There no changes whatsoever to what he had meant originally and to what he
Wait, can I
addressed.
get a copy of the letter, please?
Of course, yeah.
Thank you very much. Because no part of the dock or pier or float shall be constructed above or within 50 feet of the eelgrass beds. You're really on the edge of that.
A couple of feet.
Yeah. The eelgrass survey summary, was that sent to the DMF as they requested in their letter?
At the time of
Your October 17th letter, they asked for a eelgrass survey summary.
yes, we did send it to him. Yep.
A new pier, according to DMF, has the potential to negatively impact nearby shellfish resources and fisheries in a variety of ways. Goes on to explain that others are unavoidable and will result in permanent impacts. Plus, the associated boating activity could result in prop dredging. Support piles, float, and adjacent footprints will likely not be accessible to commercial or recreational fisheries. They recommend that the vessels transmitting to and from the proposed float avoid passage over eelgrass or utilize the same path to minimize scoring impacts to the eelgrass. I don't see how in the world that is absolutely enforceable. They will definitely be going over the eelgrass. Based on our bylaws of 17 coastal structures, docks and piers, when placed in land containing shellfish, have an adverse impact on the resource area value and aquaculture. Floats interfere with harvesting. Number 8, docks have adverse impact on recreation by interfering with recreational boating activities, and they also have an adverse impact on the aesthetics area, as page 15. Number 7, the location of any designated shellfish grant relay areas of designated recreational shellfish within 100 feet. Shellfish habitat evaluation. Piers shall not be allowed to be constructed within significant shellfish habitat as determined by the DMF and/or the Wareham Shellfish Constable. The absence of shellfish may not mean that productive shellfish habitat does not exist. The DMF letter of 10/17/22, paragraph 3 states that the project site lies within mapped shellfish habitat for bay scallop, American oyster, northern quahog, soft-shell clam. Subtidal waters within the project site have habitat characteristics suitable for these species. Land containing shellfish is deemed significant to this interest of the Wetlands Protection Act 310 CMR 10.34 and the protection of the marine fisheries. Onset Bay acts as winter flounder spawning from January through May. The Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission has designated winter flounder spawning habitat as a habitat area of particular concern. Given the status of the winter flounder stock, every effort should be made to protect the species and its spawning habitat. Based on this information, I feel that there's grounds for denial under both the Wetlands Protection Act and the Wareham bylaws, and I would urge the commission to deny the project, but that's up to the commission to decide. Is there anybody from the audience who has comments on this? Seeing none, do you have any comments?
I would like to address that, sure, of course. So these are not new comments. These were all discussed at the previous meeting, and the commission had asked us and the client to spend money to address the comments. And like any other project filed under the Wetlands Protection Act, it can be conditioned by the commission to protect the wetlands. That's sort of how it's set up. So, you know, we are certainly open to some conditions that has been recommended by the Division of Marine Fisheries, that have been recommended by the consultant who did the eelgrass survey and the shellfish survey. You know, I go back to you did list a lot there. So, you know, as far as some of the impacts, I go back to our original notice of intent application where we had stated, you know, these proposed piles would displace 17 square feet of ocean floor, which, looking at the amount of shoreline in this area, really isn't a lot. And we are also making sure that people, the public, can pass beneath the structure. So it's elevated high enough where at any point within this land subject, land containing shellfish, that people can freely pass under the structure, continue harvesting shellfish as they do today. And I think the condition in the that was recommended by ECR, where we could, I know you just are receiving it now, but has my only copy, but they recommended that.
Do you want to read from it?
Well, I know it. So they recommended that, you know, it can be, at the time of construction, we can coordinate, you know, harvesting the shellfish and the location of these piles prior to construction, coordinating that with the harbor master, or other means of protecting shellfish in these areas. So, you know, I fully understand what is out there today. Doesn't mean that's going to be the same thing out there tomorrow, which is why I believe that is a perfectly reasonable condition that would help protect the shellfish in that area, and that would not result in the loss of any shellfish, essentially, if we can avoid that. Going back to the you know, recreational value of that property, again, we are elevating that pier high enough where people can freely pass under the structure as they deem necessary. So really, there shouldn't be any significant impacts as far as that goes. Going back to eelgrass, you mentioned that early on. Division of Marine Fisheries did recommend you know, utilizing the same path for all vessels, which I understand is sort of difficult to enforce, but you know, the client would be open to setting buoys to kind of designate a channel to and from the pier where they could in fact pass over the eelgrass in one consistent spot. There is significant water depth over the eelgrass. We're at about 8 feet at low tide where that eelgrass starts. And that goes up to as high as 11, 12 feet at high tide. So water depth really is not an issue there for as far as, you know, prop wash goes and all that. And I think, was there anything else that you had stated in there that I didn't address?
I don't think so.
Okay. And if the commission feels, you know, there's ways that we can condition this project to make sure you know, you're comfortable with the construction, you know, impacts during construction and long-term impacts. Anything the client can do, I'm sure he'd be willing to listen and take that into consideration. So, if there's anything the commission would be willing to, you know, suggest,
Do you
we'd
have,
like that opportunity.
do you have a copy of the mapped shellfish area?
That was, yeah, so that was included in, there's a couple different mappings. There's the state GIS mapping, which I believe is included in that report, that shows the various, you know, types of shellfish that might exist. And I would add that you look at any area along the shoreline, every single area is going to be mapped in shellfish habitat. You know, within a certain distance of the shoreline. So that's nothing special or unique to this site.
Denise, if I may,
Go ahead.
I would, before the commission makes a decision, I would like time to review ECR's newest letter and give my opinion on the entire project as it sits currently. So if you would not be against a continuance, I would like to review everything and prepare something for our next meeting.
Yeah, sure. We're open to that.
If the commission is amenable to that as well, I think
Okay.
that could be helpful for the project
Can I have
or the
a
commission.
motion to continue?
Motion to, first, do we have to
Continue?
close first?
No, we
No.
don't close. We want to
Okay.
continue to
Motion
trees.
to
Don't close.
I move that we continue until the 15th? We're going to do the 15th?
15.
Josh, is that good?
Yeah, yes.
Until
that-
3:15?
Second?
I have a motion and a second to continue to 3:15. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It's a 4-0-0 vote.
Can
Thank you for
you
your
email
time.
me the letter and the newest set of plans? that you
I
just
did
submitted?
email them to you last week.
From ECR?
From ECR, yep. So that
Okay.
was the updated eelgrass
Oh, interesting. Okay.
and then the shellfish survey as well.
If you wouldn't mind resending
course.
them,
Give
because I'm
this
not
one
sure
to
I got them or not.
hard
Yeah,
copy.
absolutely. I will
Oh,
do that tomorrow.
actually, I have the hard copy.
Gave him the hard
so-
copy,
Okay.
but I would
Thank
like,
you.
Yep.
I would like to
I'll make a copy of it.
copy of it. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're moving on to Pinehurst Beach. Can you read to that? No, we don't have to read to it. It's a
It's a continuance.
Continuance,
so you
so-
don't have
yeah,
to.
right. Please state your name for the record.
David Moore, trustee, Pinehurst Beach Association.
Kathleen Manson, President, Pinehurst Beach Improvement Association.
Rebecca Sands, Pinehurst Beach Association Vice President.
Kevin Murphy, trustee, Pinehurst Beach Improvement Association.
Thank you. Where do you want to start with?
So as of today, they were issued a DEP number. And I believe one of the other issues with the project was the applicant, or the abutter of where the wall is connecting, where the jetty is connecting to a wall. Have you made any progress on that?
We've had a number of discussions with her on that, and we've decided to have a property survey done on her corner, just to find out exactly how far into her property we might go, or how far into our property her wall may be. So
Okay.
we wanted to find the exact location. We've spoken with the engineer at great length about this, and he feels as though that the jetty could be repaired, and the section of the jetty, if in fact it is on her property, could be left as it is, because there's a substantial amount of rock still there. So
Okay.
that'll be determined when we figure out exactly where
There's
the
a
line.
photo of the jetty, just so that everyone could see. It was a photo of the jetty.
There's nothing to show here.
Like we said, it's deteriorating rapidly.
Yeah.
Here it is there.
Yeah, that, I think I only have plan sets of it.
Yeah, it's basically a pile of rock at this point.
Yeah, I don't,
There's not much of a jetty. It's just a pile of rock. I know at one point you were talking about extending the jetty.
The engineer feels as though it should be 45 feet in length to get the maximum function of it to work properly.
I would have an issue with you doing that. You would be changing the flow of the sand in the area. I mean, you have a jetty that's been basically grandfathered in? Is that how this
yeah,
works?
from what I understand, this has never been licensed with the state, correct?
It's never been registered with the state, no.
Right.
We have we're not adverse to doing that at all. We will do that
Right,
as soon
right.
as possible.
I guess she's mentioning the current jetty. What's currently
Currently
there
there.
has never been permitted in any way with
Right.
us or the state.
Right, it has not been. It goes back, as far as we know, at least 50 years, if not to the inception of the development of the area in 1920.
And how long is it now?
How long is it now? I would say about 35 feet,
And you want to go out 10 more feet?
yes.
Do you have any idea how long it was originally?
No, we have some rough pictures, but we have no exact dimensions on what it was when it was functioning. It was functioning very well in 1975. We have a picture of a significant amount of sand in the area in front of both of the seawalls on both sides, probably 3 feet higher than what it is right now. So it was working very well for a long time.
Anyway, Kwame, do you have any questions?
I mean, it is definitely deteriorated to a fact that it's just like a couple pebbles right now. So it's not really doing anything, but, this is gonna lead to my next question, is the rest of the materials that you're gonna be bringing in too. Are you gonna be doing beach nourishment and all other good stuff later on, correct?
Well,
Possibly.
we've done beach nourishment when we did our wall in front of the clubhouse, and because of the condition of the jetty, quite a bit of it is washed away and our footing is exposed.
Okay.
And the footing on the property to the right of the beach road is also seriously being compromised with the lack of sand.
Right.
But we hadn't done beach nourishment before, and the pictures that we submitted show about 3 feet of additional sand. So we're anticipating that the sand is going to build up quite a bit when that jetty is put in naturally.
Or at least stop eroding. So that original jetty was there for 65 years, as long as I've been there. Is hearsay when or how it sort of slowly disappeared.
Yeah, there's basically just a pile of rocks there now. It's not
It's just
much
a
of a
pile of
jetty.
rocks now. It was a large,
How long has it been like that?
20 years.
Maybe 20 years, because as late as, I would say, 1995 or 2000, there was still a significant amount of sand there. It was up to, you saw how bad the steps have eroded. It was up to the bottom, or the top of the second step. The sand was that high. So we've lost at least 2.5 feet, 3 feet of sand in the last 20 years. So it's fading fast, the sand on the beach.
The stairs to that road are also, and I don't know if you can get your picture back up again,
I
but
don't think so.
no.
It's gone. It's gone.
Again, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to it.
So those stairs have been, I have been challenged, back to 2014, 13, 14, 15, with Dave Pichette and the town to try to get action on those stairs. Actually trying to work with the abutter at 110, who thought the best approach was to threaten litigation at that point against the association and the town for the collapse of those stairs and the damage it was doing to their seawall. As you can see from the engineer, if we could see the pictures, you can see that that wall is in terrible condition.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
And whatever we do or don't do, that wall's going to collapse, and she's going to have to fix it, whether it's on her property or on our property. Which is why we finally decided, look, we're just going to have to pay to get a survey done. And clearly, in much of that beach area, as people have attempted to repair their seawalls, many, if not most of them, are at least partially on association property. And so this wall may not be, but if all other indications repeat themselves, but there's only one way to find that out, and that's to do an actual survey.
Survey.
A plot plan is not.
Oh, that's a photo of the original jetty.
The original jetty.
75.
When I
You
was
have that
out
one?
there
I
today.
do have a copy of it. Again, I don't.
Could I have a look at it, please?
Thank you. There was,
We have a lot more, too.
Please go ahead.
the area that we were looking at today, there was a bunch of pipes that you couldn't even get down.
That was the town's solution to me going and saying, this is a hazard, you've been made aware of a hazard. If somebody falls on those stairs, you're liable once you've been made aware of it. So they originally put up a small wire with a sign on it that said, like, danger or something. And that disappeared in short order,
Yeah.
and that was the next solution by the town.
So the town needs to repair that area?
Well, except the town has made it very clear to us that that's not a priority. They're not going to spend that money, that the stairs go to a private beach, and that's just not where the town's going to spend their money. When we were repairing our seawall, we said, could we go across and do repairs there as well? And the town said, no, because we can't authorize you to do, you couldn't go to conservation to do work on town land, and it just turned into a mushroom cloud of, okay, we just can't touch that. So we built our wall back to where our seawall to where it stood.
Okay.
But and even that was a challenge with conservation. I think you are all aware at this point, we filed all of this paperwork with David Bichette some time ago, which now it couldn't be located, so we've had to do this a second time. DEP said we hadn't paid, but they cashed the check a year ago, January. So there's been sort of a comedy of errors here.
Sorry. Michael, do you have any-
We've made every effort to follow every rule. And, we did our own wall, we did the Cottage Street seawall. I've been involved with a number of other abutters and granting easements to them for them to build or repair their seawalls that are either totally or partially on our property.
I mean, realistically, this is it's an ugly situation.
It is.
And it's going to continue to get worse, and it's going to do major damage to your properties. It's going to do major damage to that resource area.
And somebody's going to get hurt.
And somebody's going to get hurt, but even if nobody gets hurt, the damage it's going to do, because that sand is just eroding away and eroding away and eroding away, the sand's going somewhere where it doesn't belong.
Well, it's going somewhere. How can you say
It's
where
actually
it doesn't
going right,
belong?
it's right out here. It's coming right out here, behind the high school.
It's making the ocean shallower in one
It's
spot.
going where it wants to go.
Yes.
Which is what it's supposed to do. But anyway, Mike, do you have any comments? Autumn?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Hi, I do have a couple of questions about the construction of the jetty itself. So I see on our plans that you have the stone to be granite or other hard stone. So how would you construct the jetty to maintain the integrity of the structure? Because water's powerful and it loves to break down stone.
So one of the challenges that we've had in the neighborhood is this presumption that we designed this jetty. The engineer did that. So we went to the engineer and said, how do we work this? And the engineer came back and said, this is what you need to do. So if the commission comes back and says it should be 5 feet shorter and should be made of concrete and not just stone, or the stone should be this big or that big, but I believe on the engineered plans, he shows the size of the rocks. But the point of having a licensed engineer was that he knew what he was doing and was going to build something that would sustain or be sustainable in, it's really just a couple of big storms every couple of years. It's not everyday sort of wear and tear, but the ability to withstand wind and waves in a big storm. So.
Did he recommend the addition of the 10 feet or not?
No, we just sort of got his plans and then said, okay, now we have engineered plans, let's go to conservation, because that's step one. That's what you have to do. So there was not ever we've never had design conversations or what color stone or whether it should be square granite blocks or any of those things. It was just the engineer came back and said, here's what you need to do. And I'm assuming that as an engineer, he needs to build something that he knows he can stand behind and say, it's not going to collapse. But I don't know if that means adjustments can't be made to it.
I'm sure adjustments can be made to it, and you're right, it's his professional license that's on the line. He stamps these plans, to be accurate and to some standard.
And then I don't know, do we go back to him and say, can you reduce it, or can you reduce it by what and still be safe or comfortable, or, we're not engineers, so there haven't been any design considerations or conversations or discussions with anyone.
And part of the problem is that this jetty goes up to her wall? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Goes up to her
Yes,
wall.
those property lines that were on there, okay.
Oh, yeah, this is just a cross-section of, here's one that includes the property lines. Here's one that also includes the property lines.
Those property lines came off of the water department plan for the water line that is shown there that goes over to Hamilton Beach. We've spoken with them. They're okay with us rebuilding. They just want to be part of it with the engineer. When we get the final plans, they want their engineer to review it to make sure there's no impact. It's a sleeved water line that was put in probably 15 to 20 years ago. The plan you brought up a minute ago, you can see it in a real fine print, 400 to 1,000 pound stones. So they will be significant, is what he's proposing.
And that's why you can't shift it over.
That's why we can't shift it over. And we're also, I believe, Kevin, you were told by Dave Bichette that if we relocate it, it's considered a new jetty.
And not repair of the existing. But if that's an option, we're happy to pursue that as an option as well. My interactions with David over the past 15 years, David was a really good guy, but his favorite answer was no. And so.
He wasn't in favor of jetties. I think in general.
So early on, when we were discussing replacing our own seawall across the front of the association property where the community house is, he wouldn't even let us patch the cracks in the wall for a year. So when we said, can we move it, he said, no, because now you're building a new
A new
one.
jetty, yeah.
So if you're trying to repair the existing one is one thing, building a new one is something else.
But the jetty is on her property, not your property?
That's why they're doing a
Jetty
survey.
is on our property. What's questionable, and we will now determine with a survey. So we were told that there was an existing survey, but she refuses to produce it.
Okay.
It's probably a plot plan. There's no marks, there's no pegs anywhere. And as you know, a plot plan's not sufficient to determine boundaries. So if her wall is on her property, her opposition is that our wall would attach to it. If it's on our property, that's a whole different conversation,
ballgame.
because she's
Okay.
going to need, ultimately, if you look at that wall, it's going to collapse.
Yeah, her wall is in disrepair as well, definitely, for sure.
Yeah.
The way,
She's got a house behind it.
the way that the commission has to view your project is that you are potentially doing work on someone else's property. And that's why we cannot make a decision tonight.
Absolutely understood. So what our hope is that now that we have, the DEP number, that we'll proceed with the Chapter 91 license, and we will proceed with getting a survey done. So we would like an extension to come back, hopefully that I can get that. I just started to talk with engineering firms to do the survey, so I don't have any idea whether that's something I can get done in 2 weeks or 6 months. I just don't have any clue how long, what their timelines look
If we
like.
continue to 3:15, and then you would just come back to us and let us know if you need to continue it further?
So, yeah, we can do that, or would it make more sense to continue it to the 30th?
29th.
We don't meet the 3rd,
Yeah, it's the first
only
and
twice a
third
month.
Wednesday.
Oh,
So it
first
would
and
be the
third. Okay,
first-
so whatever the,
first
The,
Wednesday in
April 5th.
April.
Whatever the first.
April 5th,
April 5th?
I believe so, yes.
so does that make sense to you?
Sure,
I mean, that gives you more time to get your ducks in a row.
yes.
So what we need to do is get the survey done, and that, I think, will determine whether there's perhaps a different level of cooperation.
Right.
We have, in fact, the one thing that is troublesome to us as a board is that the last meeting was left on the table, that we had not communicated with this property owner at all, and that's patently untrue. There's been a lot of communication and correspondence.
And
We're playing by the rules. We've done everything we're supposed to do. There's a lot of emotion attached.
yeah, and it's not really our commission's purview to
Yeah, I know.
say what has or hasn't been said between the two parties.
Well, but we were instructed to communicate with the abutter, which we have done multiple times since then and had done multiple times prior, although you were told that it had not happened. So
Yeah.
we're following in good faith what was asked at the last meeting, and we will continue to do that.
Okay.
Now, the engineer that you consulted about building this jetty,
Yes?
this is someone who is qualified in jetty building.
Well, he's
Is
done
that what he does?
3 other seawalls in Pinehurst Beach.
What about jetties
That I don't-
specifically?
You know what, I don't know that there's an expertise in jetties. I don't think too many of them get built.
Because, well, I mean, if you go like to New Bedford, for example, on East Beach, which is,
Well, Hamilton just.
and you get the Hurricane Dike, but you also have jetties on East Beach that are the same jetties that have been there since I was this big.
Yeah.
And they have not blown away, and we've had lots of hurricanes. So the jetties, when properly built, hold up. So you really do need the expertise. If we're going to allow a jetty to be rebuilt, it needs to be done right, or you're wasting your money,
Right.
Yeah, we can go.
and it can potentially do a lot more damage because it's not. It could create further problems.
So we're happy to go back to him and verify that.
Yeah, I know you had approved one on Hamilton Beach several years ago. A jetty was built out there before I came on the commission, right before I came on. So at least 2 years ago.
I don't, had to be more than
You
that.
know, there was a big pier.
No, they built a jetty. I look at it every morning.
Oh,
I see it every day.
we look at the pier every day.
I
Because you
mean,
came on
might-
very shortly after me.
I thought I came on, I don't know. I know it was done right before I came on, because I saw them building it. Oh, I'm sorry. But anyway, I mean, you might contact them and see who they used, and if it was a jetty person too, if your engineer is not certified in jetty building. I don't know.
We'll
get
back
That would be my suggestion.
Or the Army Corps of Engineers would have that
Yeah.
information too, on what kind of an expert you need.
Okay.
You know, and I mean,
Absolutely.
realistically, because it's not even, it was never permitted, there was no approval, it was just done. And you're not trying to build a new one, you're trying to repair this one, basically.
Right.
I think the best thing that can be done is to get really good information, and I think the Army Corps of Engineers would be able to steer you in the direction of who can help you with that,
Okay, we'll do that.
okay?
Yeah. Then you won't be back here in 2 years trying to get your jetty fixed again.
Say that again, please?
Then you won't be back here in 2 years trying to get your jetty fixed again.
My lord.
We couldn't afford it in 2 years.
Does anybody else on the commission have any questions or comments? Josh, do you have anything?
I just want to mention that with the issuance of the DEP number, she did suggest some reminders or requirements in filing for this or a Chapter 91 license. So
Yes.
I
Right,
keep those comments in mind when you're moving forward, just
okay.
as a friendly reminder,
Yeah.
is what I'll say.
Then can I have a motion to continue to 4/5?
Motion to continue this hearing until April 4th,
Fifth.
April 5th.
Second.
Aye.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? The vote is 4-0-0 to continue.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move on to enforcement orders.
There's none.
No enforcement orders,
Nobody's in
extension
trouble.
requests.
Nobody's in trouble.
There are people in trouble, we're just waiting for
Nobody's in
to
trouble.
respond to my letters.
Oh, I see.
Okay,
So
so extension requests. What do we,
I have sent out violations, they are,
Refusing to respond. Gotcha.
oh, they want to refuse to respond, that's a new issue.
And that money went up. Right, Denise and Mike?
excuse me?
Extension request. Agawam Mill Pond. This is a project that's been happening for quite a few years. He uses, I believe it's a chemical and mechanical way of clearing invasive species from the pond.
Correct.
I believe in the past, he...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think he's come before you with quite a few extension requests. They've had
Yes.
him doing them every year, and usually he would give you a presentation on what he was trying to address for that season.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of extending the request with the condition that he's always been following of notifying the board the season before. The only suggestion I would make is that we set the extension for 3 years instead of a year. So we'll still require him to come back every season to notify us. It'll just save him a step of having to file every year. He'll just have to come back every 3 years.
So we want a seasonal notification
I believe, and I'll
and an
have to check.
extension for 3 years.
A yearly notification.
I believe it's already in the order of conditions for him to come and propose the work. So a simple extension of the order would be fine.
But you want 3 years.
Yeah, so you would just be making a motion to extend for 3 years with the original order of conditions. And he does plan on coming in at our April 5th meeting to present his project for this season.
And if we extend it to 3 years, he still understands that he has to come in annually to present.
We can define that in the extension orders as well.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, passes 400. Okay, now we have extension requests for 12, 13, 14, 16, and 17 over Jordan Road.
Yep, so this is pretty easily blanketly explained as it's just taking a little longer than they expected for construction of all these houses. So they don't think the extension is going to need to be any more than a year. They actually envision them getting the certificates of compliance in the spring and summer of this year. So we're just looking for a simple extension of the order of conditions for those.
Mike, you want to do this one?
Sure. Sure.
We'll combine,
Hey.
we'll combine 2 through 6.
Let's see, motion to continue 12, 13, 14, 16, 17 on over Jordan Road
Until when?
for another year?
For another year?
No.
No, I would say issue an extended order of condition or an order of condition extension.
Motion A, let's see, motion A,
The extension of the order of
Make-
conditions.
an extension order of conditions for 12, 13, 14, 16, 17 on over Jordan Road for,
That's
is
it. Just stop right there.
Okay.
Perfect.
Stop it there.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Give me a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, vote is 400 to give an order of conditions extension for 12, 13, 14, 16, and 17 over Jordan Road. Certificates of compliant requests.
So John Churchill of 2850 Cranberry Highway, the work was never started, so it'd be an invalid order of conditions. So I'm looking for a motion to grant a certificate of compliance for work that was never started.
I say we grant,
So moved.
excuse me, so moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. The vote is 400 to issue the certificate of compliance for work that was never started. 8 Franklin Street. There are 2 here.
There are 2 here for the single property. One is, or was, to install a new septic system, which I want to be clear on which one is which, because I have some issues with the one that wasn't for the septic system. So, actually, let me,
Those are 2 DEP numbers.
yeah, they're 2 different projects. I'm sorry, I only have one set of plans for each of these, but here's the as-built plan, and we can pass these around in a second. And
Or they
here's
can
the-
come and look.
This is the proposed. It's pretty straightforward on why I don't agree with them. So I would recommend the approval of, let me make sure. I would recommend the approval of file number SE 762509, and issue an order of conditions for that, or a certificate of compliance for that project. If someone wants to make
I
that.
Can I have a
want
motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Second. Sorry.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to issue a COC for the DEP number ending 2509. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. The vote is 400. Okay, what's with 2561?
Now, this order of conditions was to construct the construction of a covered porch and deck to the existing dwelling. They also did some work on a patio that was in the back of the yard, which is within the 100-foot buffer to the coastal bank. As you can see here was the existing patio. That is the new patio. It's substantially larger than the original. And there's a substantial difference in the location of the stairs and the addition of an impervious walkway.
Nice walkway there.
Oh, yeah, big difference.
My recommendation would be that the addition of these modifications wouldn't have an effect on the resource area, but they still require permitting. So I would make the issuance of the certificate of compliance contingent on them filing a request for a determination of applicability and stating those two deviations from the original.
So you want an RDA?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah. That's a huge difference in the deck
Yeah.
and
Okay.
patio.
Mm-hmm.
All right, can I have a motion to what?
Require a new
To
RDA.
require a new RDA for the as-built patio and as-built block walkway?
Yeah.
What about the deck? The deck?
That deck is a big difference.
Yeah, they should include that in the RDA as well.
Okay, and the deck.
I think the easy way to say that is you would require a request for determination of applicability for the differences in the proposed site plan versus the as-built. And that would cover everything.
That was a mouthful. Go ahead. Okay, I move that we request an RDA to amend, is that correct?
No, I'd say for the addition of the work that is the difference between the proposed site plan and the as-built.
The as-built.
For the
DEP ending in 2561.
for the DEP ending in 2561, for the as-built plan as compared to the as-proposed plan.
Correct.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to require an RDA for the difference in the proposed versus the as-built. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400 vote. Other business. Review of the minutes for February 1st. Did everybody review them?
Yes.
Yes.
I found two things. One was on page 2. Mr. Faherty recommended a sill fence. I think it should be a silt fence.
Okay, yep, I can,
You got that?
that.
And then on page 2, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, Mr. Bertolo reviewed the project as construction of a 26 by 42 SFD that would be on piles, not piers.
okay,
It's just a typo.
yep.
May I have a motion to accept the minutes with the two corrections?
Motion to accept the minutes from the hearings with the two corrections?
All those in favor?
Second.
Oh, second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry, Denise.
That's okay. The minutes for February 15th, did you get to review those?
Yes.
I had a number of changes for that, which you said that you are addressing.
Yep, I responded to your email with the ones that could be corrected on my end, and then I will reach out to the madam that does our minutes to have them updated with the other things. So
Okay, so how do we handle that?
So either we can, leave it and continue it to the next meeting, or you can approve them dependent upon her, when we get the revised minutes from her.
Well, we no longer approve, we just accept. So,
Well, some of the stuff, okay, the problems were.
Were the votes.
The votes were all, should have all been listed as 500,
Yep.
not 600.
Right.
Kwame's name was misspelled. There was an elimination of an eelgrass discussion that went on for 3236 Cranberry Highway. There was a discussion on the removal of a cottage was missing from 303-305 Plymouth Avenue. Ms. Lacurdo, not Mallison, made the motion on 12 Widow Cove Lane. 17 Murphy, the date was stated as April 20th and not April 22nd. The amended order of conditions was before 72B. Kwame made the motion, not Carol. Carol seconded it. She couldn't do both. And the motion to close was done by Mike, not Carol. Those were the corrections that I found. So if you feel comfortable with approving them,
I think
have
we should,
Josh
I
handle.
think we should wait till they get amended. I mean,
Okay.
that's a lot to have to correct.
Okay.
I will say a lot of it was corrected by me, and then it sounds like the addition or what was left out is just required from her. So I would still suggest that we wait until the minutes are accurate.
Okay.
Do I have to make a motion for that?
No.
No?
No,
Okay.
we just don't approve them. And is there any other business?
There is.
Oh, good grief.
Don't worry, it'll be quick. You might like this one.
I will like this one, I know I will.
You want to pass those down?
So until,
Pass papers down all the time. Here we go.
If you would like to pass these down. One for you, one for her. There we go.
I love this idea.
This is a placard that I think should be required to be placed on the 30-foot no disturbance zone. Previously, in the past, you've used some type of physical barrier to mark this, which I also think is a good idea, but adding, and it doesn't have to be this design, this is just, we're in the planning stages of this, I'll say. So we could talk about different designs, different colors, things of that nature. But I believe that we should have this affixed to whatever permanent marker there is for, new homeowners or people that are taking care of these properties to know what is beyond the fence or the boulders that you guys had laid out. So there are other towns that do this. It seems to work well for them.
So do we vote to authorize you to do this, or how does this handled?
We don't have to vote now. I think it's just something to get in the minds, and if you guys have any suggestions on, what you would like to see, maybe you don't agree with this design, and that's fine. We can talk about it in further detail, but it doesn't have to be done in a public forum either. If you want to email me about some design ideas, that's fine. So moving on with the requirements of it, I would say that when installing these, they should meet with me and I can determine where or how frequently they need to be placed on a property. Because sometimes you don't always have something like a post and rail fence where you could say on every other post, So we can condition them so that they need approval of where they are put.
Does this have to be added into our order of conditions, or how does it get applied?
It would be a special condition for the projects that you feel necessary. Because as you know, not every project has something to do with the 30-foot no disturbance.
Okay.
Is this something that's gonna be extra, like, added?
There will be a cost to the applicant.
Yeah,
They
would have to pay for the plaques.
They will have to pay for the plaque.
So it's not an option? It would be a kind of like requirement?
Yeah, I mean, the physical barriers that you guys have them put up are a requirement now.
Okay, so we vote on and say,
So-
yes, you're gonna do this?
Yeah.
Now, what would
So-
you do in the position of where some of them we've approved, just put boulders up?
So these can be affixed to a fence post with, screws or however they may determine to do that, nails, what may it be. There's also a way to affix them to boulders and concrete using epoxy.
Good, excellent.
So there are towns that have a 4x4 by 1 foot high post off the ground, and these are just slapped on the top of it. There are towns that will put it in the tree line of the property.
I was going to ask, could it go on, say, like a telephone pole or something like that, perhaps, or?
Yeah, it can go on anything as long as it's, you know, I would say within reason to that 30-foot no disturbance zone.
And we would make it stay a permanent thing.
Correct.
Because, I mean, realistically, houses can change hands 3, 4, 5 times in 20 years.
And they won't know what the
And
fence is on.
they won't know that boulder
there, yeah.
delineates anything. They
Yep.
won't have any idea.
I'm sure you've run into orders of condition or certificates of compliance where that was part of the condition, and now it no longer exists.
Right.
And that was something else that we had talked about in the past, was looking into getting those pamphlets from the MACC to supply or give them to the real estate agents so that they're informing people of what goes on and what they need to do for the Conservation Commission. I think I'll forward a copy of it to the commission for you guys to start taking a look at it and see if it's something that we want to purchase and
Well,
provide.
I mean, there are so many real estate agents out there now.
Well, if we,
And they're coming from everywhere.
Right.
They're from other states.
well, if we provided them, I mean, even outside our office down, I mean, they have that one area outside the, is it the clerk's office that they have a whole bunch of different
Yeah.
pamphlets and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
there? I guess we could provide something there. I'd like you to take a look at them and see what you think
Yeah,
before you
okay.
decide what we
Yeah,
want
that's
to
a
do
good
with
idea.
them, if we want to do anything with them. But a lot of people keep coming to us saying, well, I didn't know. This would kind of erase that option.
And we could also make it a PDF and put it on the website as well.
Correct.
But before we get too far off track on
Yeah.
this, so there would be a cost to the applicant, and so that it doesn't look like the town is making money off of this new order, the proceeds from these signs would go to creating trail markers in town-owned properties to enhance those areas, so.
Yeah, that's a good
Sounds
idea.
great. Excellent.
With that being said, that's all I have for new business.
I do have a quick question on this. Are we retroactively asking people to apply these to their boundaries? Or is that optional?
That isn't something that we can do.
It would be just going forward.
It would be just going forward. The issue you would run into trying to do it retroactively is the first person you condition to do it would say, why me? And, you know, that could kind of destroy the whole progress of, you know, what we're trying to accomplish. And to track down these people and even try to start that would be too burdensome on our department. So,
I think recently, we've only started actually enforcing or making them put up some type of physical boundary.
okay.
I think that's just been within the past year
Oh,
that we've started that.
I don't
2
think so.
years? We've been doing
No,
that
I
since
think that's been being done for a long time.
Has it? I don't know. I wouldn't. So, anyway, okay.
that's all I have.
That's
Yeah,
it.
I think this is a good idea.
So do I. It's an excellent idea. Can I have a motion to close the meeting?
Motion to close the meeting?
At-
To adjourn,
To adjourn?
to adjourn the meeting.
To adjourn the meeting.
That's right, I got ripped for that last week. Adjourn the meeting at.
Can I get a second?
I don't have a second yet.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourning the meeting at 8, what is it? 09? 8:08?
8:09.
8:09. Thank you for your cooperation this evening.